Hello, we're on the Analytics United YouTube with a special treat. Special treat. It's Christmas. We got a present for you. Free beer wasn't enough. We wanted to give you something else. For those of you that have been listening along for a while, you'll know that we have a Patreon where we do a lot of bonus content for our lovely Patreon members. There's a great community over there. One of which is the preview show where every week myself and either Jack or Darcy will preview tactically the opposition, and we thought this week, why not give you a little teaser of what we expect to see against Villa at the weekend, but also how we would set up if we were in charge. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around because you're going to get to hear it. But if you want to see the full thing, then all you need to do is go to Analytics United, which is patreon.com/Analytics United. You do get a 7-day free trial, and now is as good a time as any to take advantage of that, really. January's around the corner. We're going to be doing lots of transfer stuff. We're going to be talking about players that we want to bring in, why we want to bring them in, why we need to bring them in, and also, as everyone knows, fixture congestion. It's the order of the season. Christmas is here. The games are coming thick and fast. You're going to get loads of previews. You're going to get loads of breakdowns. You're going to get loads of Q&As. So, yeah, make the most of it. Tell your friends. We'll see you there. But, yeah, for now, I'll pass over to me in a different outfit and my co-host Darcy Cox to talk all things Villa. Where do I want to start? Do I want to start with our out-of-possession plan or our in-possession plan? I'm going to go with our out-of-possession plan because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here. We're suggesting that we set up in a 4-4-2, which is not crazy from us. I think quite often we find ourselves talking about a 4-4-2 block, but we often find ourselves talking about a 4-4-2 mid-block. What might be interesting to listeners is that actually in this game, despite coming into it as the comparatively out of form team, and going up against the best, like the most informed team in the league, we are suggesting that we play a 4-4-2 high block. Which people might be going, holy shit, why would we do that? Have you not seen our defence this season? Do you not know who our players are? Yes, I hear your protestations, but I would say that there is method to our madness, as there often is. And whilst it might sound bonkers, I think it actually makes a lot of sense, Darcy.
Yeah, and obviously, as things roll back, it does become a mid block invariably, right? It's just more that we want this starting position for it to be high, and the reason for that is as we've just covered, Villa are highly rotational, and they're trying to the rotations are essentially happening into the middle of the pitch, and we think by going with a high block, what we'll be able to do is essentially constricts the space that Aston Villa want to use to rotate players into. So they want that left winger to come into the middle of the pitch and be an attacking midfielder and then operate in there. And if the gaps become too big and we allow play to become stretched and our back line is quite deep and therefore there's a gap between the midfield line and the defensive line, for example, that's the space that Aston Villa are looking to exploit and rotate into and then sort of run their plays from there. Therefore, really the focus is in this 4-4-2. Yes, we're having a high line, but we're trying to be compact, and the high line helps us be compact by squeezing the vertical space. And we want to be compact in both ways. So horizontally, we want to make sure we're compact. So wingers tucked in, fullbacks tucked in, leave space out wide. And then also vertically, we want to be compact. So from back to front, we want the distance to be as small as possible. So those players that would operate between the lines by rotating inwards don't have the space to operate between the lines. Or even if they are able to generate some space, we have so many players around that we're able to sort of snuff it out. So I think really what we're saying is let's trade space in behind by pushing up our back line for less space in front and in the block. So they can't operate within the block, but there is some sort of danger that they could go in behind if they play a perfectly timed long ball and they have players to latch onto that. So and I think this is sort of like a fair trade-off in terms of approaching this game. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'd agree. Though I instantly do think, Watkins running in behind against our defence is a little bit scary. But like you say, Watkins tends to start on the left of that too and peel into that left half space when he does run in behind, and reveal a bit of the lineup here. But Wan-Bissaka was in great form in the last 2 games, so if that is the case, hopefully Wan-Bissaka continues on his current run of form and can handle those sorts of threats. And I think actually it kind of suits him better anyway. He's a better recovery defender than he is sort of a defender that's camped within his own box, where lapses of concentration can often be his undoing. So yeah, I think as well it's important to clarify, or just like we've already clarified it, but just to hammer home the point that it is a high block and not a high press. I don't think we want to bake in any sort of press really. We want to protect the central space, as you've said, and therefore knowing that we don't press particularly well anyway, but also because we don't want to open up space by people making overcommitments and then Villa sort of baiting us into that and then someone dropping into the space that's been vacated by the pressing player. We would rather avoid running the risk of any of that and just not really baking in that press from the offset. Similarly, we've spoken a lot about man-to-man pressing, particularly in the middle of the park this season, in terms of like assigning a midfielder to an opposition midfielder. Whilst I think that has a lot of merit against a lot of opposition, I think in this game, for the same reasons that I've just discussed with regards to not pressing out and leaving spaces for people to target, I think we want to adopt a zonal approach in midfield for this one, because I think whilst we've seen our midfielders of late do quite good jobs of man-to-man assignments in terms of being able to follow and limit their ability to get on the ball, I worry in this one, given how good Villa are in terms of doing that with someone like Morgan Rogers dropping in, or with Emi Buendia drifting over, or McGinn drifting inside, and the ability also like to just tweak things in game. Like all of a sudden they might be like, okay, well, we can afford to move Mathiasen inside as well and let him drift into central areas and create a five. So like they could commit so many bodies to that scenario, where I think if you then go out and tell your players to do man-to-man, it just becomes incredibly overwhelming and will be just dragged all over the shop. So in this one, certainly advocating for a zonal approach, which in itself is still difficult. It doesn't mean that we're simplifying it necessarily, because man-to-man can often sometimes be easier, because it is just like, go and follow that guy and don't think about anything else, whereas zonal requires sort of much more tactical discipline, I would say, to know when to know not to get dragged into those scenarios, which is difficult, but we think we've got the players to do it, and we'll come on to that in a bit. All right, quick break from all things West Ham then, because in the spirit of the festive period, we have got a gift for you guys. Free beer, that's right. Our friends at Beer 52 are offering you a free case of 10 unique beers that you will not find anywhere else. A World Cup of beers, actually. They're from all over the world, and this time you get to decide who the winner is. All you need to do is head to www.beer52.com/analytics and cover the $5.95 postage. That's beer52.com/analytics. For those who don't know, Beer 52 is the UK's #1 beer club. Every month they visit a different part of the world and expertly curate a case of exclusive craft beers from the region's best breweries. Your free case will include a serious selection of beers from the world's best beer countries and, which is my favourite part, some under-the-radar gems. So you could be getting beers from the UK, from Germany, all the way through to Spain and even Sweden. Plus, you'll also get a copy of their award-winning Ferment magazine, which digs into the breweries, the regions, and the brains behind the beers. Now, this is where I reveal my true colours. I've actually been a Beer 52 subscriber for years. These Ferment magazines have been slowly taking over my bookshelf since issue 11, and I believe we're now on issue 124 or something like that. So yeah, they've served me well. They're a great read. One of my favourite ones every year is the Best Beers of the Year edition. You get to read all about it, and they'll send you all the beers that are up for the award. And yeah, it's just really fun to sort of sit and read about them as you drink along. And honestly, this obsession kind of makes sense. You all know me for unearthing hidden gems and my obsession with football academies across the globe. And Beer 52 lets me extend that curiosity to breweries and beers. We all know that the Basque Country produces elite coaches and that Scandinavian academies can churn out wonder kids at an alarming rate, but what you might not know is that they're just as good at brewing. If breweries are academies and beers are players, then I suppose Beer 52 is the scout who finds the gems. And I've actually got some of them right here. So this case that you'll be sent if you use the code includes a lovely Pilsner, and a stout from one of my favourite breweries, Omnipollo, out in Sweden. And then also this, quite frankly, brilliant pale ale from the German company, or German brewery, I should say, Burro Brewery. The artwork's just a bit nuts. I don't know if I can get that up in there, but the three-eyed rabbit. And I'm actually going to give this one a try as well, because that rabbit has really drawn me in. So bear with while we crack this open. Bit of ASMR for you. Oh, yes. So, I mean, wow. It smells insanely hoppy. Yeah, that slaps. That slaps. Very vibrant, I guess. Quite loud, but lots of flavour with a nice delicate finish. Definitely better than anything you would find at the football, at any of those Premier League stadiums, really. Much more elevated experience. And I almost forgot, they chuck in tasty snacks like these too. A little bit of Bombay mix here and some barbecue corn, which actually this comes sometimes quite regularly in the boxes, and I must admit, it's one of my favourites. Perfect for sort of storing in the cupboard and whacking out when I'm about to watch some football on the sofa at the weekend. And the best part, like any good tactician, like many of you here are, you can tweak your setup. If you're not into the dark beers like me, don't worry. Just choose the light box instead. And if you're still not enjoying it after all of that, you can pause or cancel any time. Light work. So if you do want to get involved and make the most of this brilliant offer, please head to www.beer52.com/analytics to claim your free case and start unearthing the hidden gems of the beer world. That's beer52.com/analytics. Cheers! Obviously, we need to score ourselves. In possession, maps quite nicely from the out of possession. Again, try not to overcomplicate it too much. We want to see a 4-4-2 in possession as well, which I suppose also in terms of it mapping means that you're even less likely to be caught out or stressed from they're not going to stress so many tensions because we're not trying to move from one shape in possession to one shape out of possession. The players are already going to be in those positions. So if for whatever reason we turn over the ball, there's not yards of ground for players to cover because they're already close enough to their position. Obviously, players are going to drift. Bowen's going to move out wide at some point from up front. Socek's likely to drift inside. Paquetá's likely to drift inside, that sort of thing. But they're not going to have acres and acres of ground to cover up, which is a definite positive for us. I've kind of just alluded to a point there about Bowen being up top in this 4-4-2. I guess people listening will be wondering why. And I will pass back to you, Darcy, to answer that question.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a lot of it's the same reasons that we've actually seen him up front or in central areas in the last two games anyway. Villa have a particularly, or usually rely on their left back to be particularly aggressive, which means whoever's playing on the right wing is going to oftentimes end up quite deep, quite quickly. We don't want to do that to our best player. I think that's a lot of the reason Nuno has been playing him centrally as well. And also he's just played well the past two games. I don't really feel like it's a good idea to disrupt a player whilst they're in the sort of flow of getting essentially showing the best of their profile, just to put them back out wide. So yeah, I think to be honest, it's one of the first things we thought of when we were constructing this in possession plan, that finding a way to keep Bowen in central areas, or in the kind of role that he's been in over the past two games, whether that's as a number 10 or if it's part of a front two, is really important, because it's one of the things that's made us look like a dangerous force going forward again.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think for weeks we've complained about him being, well, maybe not in recent weeks, but the weeks prior to us turning what feels like a bit of a corner, we'd been worried that he was just way too far away from goal to have any real impact, particularly when we were in that vein of form, we were relying on him to be creator and finisher. And it's like, well, he can't he can't do both really, if there's no one else around to support him or to finish his chances. So yeah, getting him in those central areas and capitalising on his current form and performances it makes a lot of sense. I suppose who else is going to feature in this? Wilson is going to be up top, I think, in the two. There's probably a conversation, and this harks back, I guess, a little bit as well to our out-of-possession approach in terms of we want our strikers to screen in this one. And I think one of the issues, I'm trying to think which game it was. It was the Liverpool game where Wilson really struggled screening Ryan Gravenberch. So I think, the debate is whether Fulkrug actually maybe is worthwhile for introduction in this game because of him being a slightly more capable presser, I guess. I say that with sort of real negative intonation because it's based on assumed ability rather than observed performance at the minute, because we haven't seen him do shit for ages. But we have seen Wilson struggle to do that sort of thing. But I suppose the logic is that in this game and how we're going to attack in possession, the trio of Bowen, Wilson, and Souček crashing the box is a nice prospect, which I think for me outweighs the out of possession stuff. Frankly, I think Wilson should be fine with Bowen alongside him as well. I don't know if you share the same opinion.
I think if we're in pure fantasy land and the context around Fulkrug didn't exist and he was going to be our player, I think I would probably prefer Fulkrug for this game for both sides of the plan. Out of possession, I think Fulkrug is smarter and a bit more mobile and would do better with that screening role. But I also think that with the, it's great that we can go long to Souček and that's an option. There's going to be lots of moments in the game where we do have to, build up in sort of settled possession, right? And I think we're going to be forced to build a lot more on our right-hand side rather than our left-hand side because the attacking triangle, the attacking quartet that we have on the right hand side is made massively improved by Bowen's presence on the right hand side. He's able to combine and link a lot better with Souček and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and we can recreate a lot of those dynamics that we saw against Man United, where we went from playing quite slowly to then speeding up the tempo really well. And on that side of the pivot as well will be Matheus Fernandes as well. So it's a really nice build up sort of unit on that side. On the other side, it's going to end up being Lucas Paquetá, who's coming in to be like a number 8 and inverting into midfield, Callum Wilson, and Malik Diouf, which I think Callum Wilson, as a build-up player, sort of like takes away a little bit from our ability to be as effective on that side. If it was Fulkrug, I trust him a little bit more to offer more outside of the box and be able to link up in that way. Hence why I'd probably prefer him, but I just don't think that it's he's the one when we were constructing this plan that I started with in this position, and then we ended up taking him out just because it was so unrealistic that I think he would be involved from the start of the game, and it seems like he'll probably be gone in January.
Yeah.
And obviously that has knock-on effects. Like I said, I think it's likely that we're going to end up building up on our right-hand side a lot more, which is absolutely fine. And what it also means is that hopefully we can get Malik Diouf into positions where we've brought a lot of play over to our right hand side, and we end up being able to switch the ball to him on the underloaded side, and he maybe has a second or two to get the ball out of his feet and deliver a ball into the box. And if you think about that sort of dynamic where Malik Diouf is delivering the ball into the box and arriving in the box, you've got Thomas Souček, who's a genuine aerial threat and a great box crasher. You've got Callum Wilson, who is really kind of like a wily fox in the box, right? His movement is extremely good. And then Jarrod Bowen benefits from the fact that those two are probably going to be the main focus of the centre of Aston Villa's defence. And he gets back that benefit where he can float in a little bit late and then arrive and look to get goals that way. Suddenly that dynamic is really nice. So as much as it would be nice to have balanced build-up dynamics on each side, I think focusing on building up via our right-hand side initially and then being able to switch to the underloaded side on the left for Malik Diouf to deliver across could work really, really nicely and gives us a nice bit of variation. Obviously, then we've kind of like quite naturally concluded or displayed without saying it that we end up in this 2-3-5 shape, right, where we leave the two centre backs at home. Our fullbacks end up being our primary width holders and creating the width on either side. You have that central three of the 5 being Souček, Wilson, and Bowen, and then you leave our 3 central midfielders, who Mers will reveal who it's going to be now. Matheus Fernandes as the right 8, Lucas Paquetá, who's inverted from left wing into left 8, and then Freddie Potts in the middle as the number 6 to give us that sort of rest defence shape that we can counter press from really nicely. So I think as kind of like a plan that goes from out of possession to in possession, there's quite a nice through line with lots of favourable dynamics without giving up too much from our perspective.
Stop right there. That is enough of the good stuff for you. This was just a preview of the preview. But if you want to see the full thing, as I said at the top, get yourself to patreon.com/analyticsunited, where you can see the full-length preview, everything we had to say, and also everything else that is on there. So yeah, get over there, make use of it, enjoy it, engage with us, leave us some comments, be nice. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you there. Until then, have a lovely festive period, and don't embarrass yourself at your work Christmas party.